Are you being asked to take another assessment at work? I get it. It's a lot. But today I want to talk to you about assessment that works. It's going to tell you how you communicate, how to be more productive, and actually how to enjoy work. Welcome to the Help for Leaders podcast. I'm Stacey Harris. Before we dive into today's episode, click here to subscribe, ring that bell so you're notified each week when we post new episodes. So today I want to talk about the DISC language. This is an observable language that's going to help you understand how you communicate with others and even how you do what you do. It's an online assessment that measures observable behavior in 4 different continuums. The first continuum is dominance. It's how you handle problems and challenges. The second continuum that's measured is influence, is how you influence people and contacts. The third continuum, steadiness. It's all about pace, consistency. And then the last aspect that the language measures is conscientiousness. It's all about procedures and constraints. And so let's talk about the actual assessment. I've done previous episodes. There's actually one called All Things DISC, where I go into the language, the history, all about the observable behaviors. I would encourage you to go take a listen to that episode if you haven't already. Today, I want to just specifically dive in to the assessment and why an individual benefits from going online, spending 10 to 15 minutes, taking a survey. You're going to actually rank order 24 different groups of words and phrases of what's most like you to what's least like you. You don't want to overthink it. You want to just go with your first instinct about your behavior at work, and you're going to get 24 plus pages of detailed, personalized results based on your communication style. And I want to really talk about some of those pages in the actual report. So the first introduction page is all about your general characteristics, your behavioral characteristics. There's 3 paragraphs. One's going to give you just a general overview of your communication style. Then the second paragraph really goes into how you problem solve. And then the third one is going to give you clues of how to communicate more effectively with different people. So I just talked about that introduction. And then I want to really look at the next page that really does focus on the value that you bring to your organization. This is a powerful page that really looks at the value that your style brings to your team and to your organization. This can be a great page for team members to share with one another and for managers to really understand about the different people in their organization and the value they bring with their communication style. The next 2 pages are some of my favorite pages in the report. These are the communication do's and don'ts page. These are specifically directed to your style, and this is going to give individuals tips on how best to communicate with you. And also things that you don't want them to do. You know, there's so much science around moving away from a topic. And so if we know ways that we want people to communicate with us, is super helpful. But then also knowing, please don't ramble on. Please don't be redundant. Whatever it is, those are keys that are going to be specific to your style in your communication do's and don'ts pages. I have team members that actually share these 2 pages with everyone on their team. They've really highlighted specific things on the page that can enhance communication and really just kind of push away some of the roadblocks that maybe have been coming up on their teams. The next page in the report is the ideal work environment. Do you know what your ideal work environment is based on your style? You know, some people would actually prefer going to work in a place where people just don't really show anger or get really mad at each other. Maybe that's your ideal work environment, and maybe you're in an environment where there's a lot of angst and it feels very stressful for you. That's highlighted in your report, and every single one of us are going to have different statements on that ideal work environment page. And it can be helpful for you to understand your preferences, but then also really highlight the team and what's going on in your organization so you can be operating at your optimal level. Perceptions is the next page. I spend a lot of time debriefing this page. There are 3 sections to this page. We have our own self-perception. We all love those statements on that page, and they're really positive. We all have strengths of our own communication style. And then there's the next section that says, under moderate pressure, stress, fatigue, others may perceive us. And we give some statements there that are a little less positive, because when we are stressed, when we just don't have that margin to flex our style, people can perceive us in a different way than we showed up that day. And then the last part of that page is under extreme pressure, stress, fatigue. When deadlines are tight, when there's a lot coming at you, the perception of others because of our communication can be very different than our self-perception. So understanding when we are tired, when we are stressed, when there are deadlines, we need to be able to pause so that we're communicating the way that others are receiving us in the way that we ideally want them to be perceiving us. And just understanding that mismatch that can happen. Maybe I'm just going after results, but everyone on my team is experiencing me as being very blunt and aggressive that day. Those are just my own examples. Maybe you have your own, but perception is a huge part of communication. The next pages in the report are our natural and our adapted styles. So this report actually measures 2 different disc graphs. It's going to show you who you are naturally, what your preferences are, how you prefer to communicate, and then it's going to show you how you're adapting to your work role. And we all wear different hats at work, and we're constantly changing. So that graph 1 can be very different throughout the day, but it's just showing us that behavior is situational. And there are times when we are exhibiting different behaviors depending on the role that we're playing. While behavior and flexing is very necessary and adapting can be very necessary, it can also be stressful for some people. So being able to have those discussions about your own style and how you're flexing to the work style can be really helpful for self-awareness. The next page in the report are keys to motivating you based on your style. Do you know how your manager can motivate you? Do you know how to motivate your employees? We actually have strategies in the report, all based on communication style. After that, keys to motivating, we have keys to managing. So if you are a manager, this can be really helpful to really calling out the gold in your employees and really helping them to perform at optimal levels. We have an areas for improvement. That's also included in the report. You know, we all have weaknesses. We all have opportunities to grow. And if we can lean into those areas of improvement, we can change the way others are perceiving us. We can become more self-aware, and we can become a team that's really gelling in all areas because communication is open, it's honest, we're being able to hear one another and really being able to lean into all of our strengths when we understand our weaknesses. So the next page in the report are the behavioral hierarchies. And these hierarchies are 12 commonly encountered behaviors in the workplace. They're everything from a consistent workspace to maybe sense of urgency to organized to customer orientation. Every single person is going to have a different rank order of these 12 based on your behavioral style. We also show the national norms for each one of these 12 behaviors, and they're combinations of D, I, S, and C behaviors. For instance, urgency. If you fall in that top 14% of the population, it's going to help you understand why when you're not getting the results that you want to see, you feel it more deeply than other people on your team or in your organization. If you're a leader and you're always frustrated by things just not moving at the pace you want to, you can dive into your report and kind of understand that about yourself, but also understand that about your team. And it can be really beneficial when you look at not only where you're high, but also where you're low. If you're in the bottom 14% of the population for one of these behaviors, maybe it's organized workspace, and you're like, oh, no wonder I have my piling system on my desk, and others get frustrated when they walk in and see kind of the chaos that I feel is normal. So it can just help us with self-awareness. It can also help us understanding our teams. And then the last section of the report are the graphs. We've got our natural and adapted disc graphs. We've got our disc wheel, which is another visual representation of those two graphs. These wheels can be really helpful in analyzing teams and being able to plot entire teams on one wheel. So these are the pages in the DISC assessment. This is the management staff report that I've just kind of gone through all of the pages. This is our most comprehensive DISC assessment. We also have other versions. Some are shorter, some are more focused on sales, but this management staff report is the most common, and it's also the most comprehensive online DISC assessment that we offer, and it's one most of our clients use. It can be used for any management or any staff position in your organization. After you've generated a DISC assessment, you can create team graphs. You can create comparison reports where you actually have two people side by side. Maybe you're a manager and you want to look at your results next to someone in your organization. Maybe you're having conflict with two people and you actually like to see them side by side. We can create those comparison reports to enhance communication, to really help in self-awareness so that you can get on the same page. I mentioned those team graphs. We can do that as well. We can do graphs around wheels, just the wheel, or we have a full team behavioral report that we can also generate that has lots of detailed information for teams to dive in and really learn more about themselves, but as well as learning about each other. So you can enhance communication, you're really being able to collaborate more and increase your performance. I hope you've enjoyed this kind of debrief of walking through one of the DISC assessments. So the DISC assessment is a great tool to increase self-awareness. You can use it as an individual. You can use it with your teams. I have whole organizations that use these assessments to gain self-awareness, to understand how to communicate more effectively and really work together as a team. I would love to help you and your organization. Reach out today. Find out how you can use the DISC assessments to really empower your team members to communicate more effectively. Thanks for watching today's episode. Tune in next week because I'm going to dive into a new series on DISC time wasters, and I'm going to give you possible causes and solutions for each of the 4 DISC styles. If you enjoyed this episode and would like more information on emotional intelligence, DISC, or communication, click here to get more content. And we'd also love for you to click here to subscribe so you're notified each week when we post new episodes.